Three, two, and go. It's time.
Now all I've
It's
got in my head
time
is
for era of the
go.
dreamers. Era of the dreamers. You got a dream and I got a dream. And today we want to send everybody to fucking hell. Dear listener, dear viewer, you know the feeling when you're just done with something? We're not going to name any names.
Like ding dong done.
I think today, in the spirit of the eclipse energy that we just, well, apparently passed along, and all the fire going on, plus the Neptunian, Piscean magic and depth, we got quite a combination. I would love to begin riffing on the signs that you know when something is done. And we already talked about this in a past episode
We have.
when you were like, it's full body, done, 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 done. So maybe we take it, maybe we don't focus solely on like what that is, but I basically want to create like a massive permission slip for whoever needs it
Hmm.
to honor the done. There was no more milk in this teat. It's been squeezed dry. Don't think anything else is going to come out. The toothpaste tube is completely empty. You've already cut the end out and took out some of the toothpaste from the other side.
Yeah.
Like you've the jar is
Gone.
gone. It's so all right. That's the last tip. As I crunch my way to podcast fame. Era of the dreamers. Moving all the energy. We are your palate cleanser. Ooh,
Okay.
wait, before, can I also say
Hmm.
Cory Booker, man? Cory Booker has me inspired. He's
Yeah.
got me asking, I wrote in my journal, he's got me asking the following questions. Where do I want to get in some good trouble?
Mm. Yeah.
These are not normal times and they shouldn't be treated as such. And I think that could be applied to so many things, like
Yeah.
to shake us out of the numbness, if you will.
For sure.
You know, the numbness I'm talking about.
The yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What am I afraid of the most when I think about the ways and the stuff I want to do? Um, I wrote do something different. And then this question really shook me. Years from now, when our children and our grandchildren or whatever future generations look back, even not that many years from now, and they ask, "Hey, MA, hey, Sage, so where were you when all this shit was happening? Like, what were you doing anything about it?" And I had a thought, and I was like, I I would love to be able to say, like, succinctly and courageously, that I did this and I did that, or even it was just one thing, that I was there for it
Yeah.
in whatever way that comes up.
Yeah.
We said it a few weeks ago. It's go time.
Hmm.
And the I think one of the ways to get out of the numb slug, stop trying to squeeze milk out of the teeth that's dry,
Hmm.
hyper dry, is to wake up a part of you that. And in order to do that, there's probably a door that you've been leaving open, like with a shoe or a rock or something, and it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talking stick. So Cory Booker, in case you're hearing that, senator from New Jersey, he basically stood on the Senate floor and spoke for 25 hours and 18 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever, over 24 hours. And the rules when you do something like this is called a filibuster, which is basically you standing, rising up and taking up space in the Senate because um, you want to prove a point basically, and you want to like use your voice for something. And you can't sit down, you can't go to the bathroom, you can only sip water, and you can't sit down. You have to keep talking for 25 hours. That's what he chose to do.
He's a
The,
fucking boss.
he is a boss. The last record was held from 1957, 24 hours. A racist dude who was basically speaking against civil rights for 24 hours. Like why we should keep segregation going. He had the oh my God, why am I forgetting the word? The record. The
Oh, the record. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had the record for the longest one. And Cory Booker
Was like actually.
was like, actually, let me tell you what's up. And the thing isn't when you do this, nobody knows in the Senate that you're going to do it. You don't announce. You just get up when it's you have an allotted time and you just keep talking. Badass.
Is really badass. What are the rules for the folks in the Senate? Do they
Oh,
have to,
that's
are they
so
free to go or do they have to like,
that's so interesting. They are free to go. And what happened is many of his colleagues decided to stay to support him. He
Mhm,
can't like give his time to anybody else, but he can field questions. So the idea is that you keep talking for however long your body can withstand. And
mhm,
so a lot of his colleagues did, ask questions. And so when they were asking questions, they would extend their questions a bit so that Cory could have a chance to like rest, but then he
mhm,
would answer. And the other cool thing is, in 1957, Horrific Man, um, part of what he did is he read, and some people that have attempted this, I think there's like they've attempted this before to just speak for hours and hours. They've like read from the dictionary, they've read books and stories. So they filled in the time with
mhm.
speaking, but not actual
Right.
information, which is what Cory Booker did. Like the whole time, he was basically just talking about all the ways that this administration is screwing us over. So,
Wow.
there's fire there.
There is fire there.
There's fire there. So, and that's a real life, one of those real life examples that you're like, okay. And he said, I came up with it because people kept calling me and asking for me to do something different. And I spoke with my staff and I was like, well, let's attempt it. And it's something that has, uh, you know, it's like stirred the imagination of, I think, a lot of people that are watching this and going, oh, okay, like all the different ways. Talk about a mini movement, like
Mm,
a long mini movement. But he was
yeah.
like, I'm gonna do something.
Hmm.
And it's just friggin' fantastic.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Shout out to Cory Booker.
Shout shout out to Cory Booker. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to the part where we're ding dong done?
Yes. Ding dong done. I want to hear you do like a hot take, like real, like you're gonna you took your bra off, you don't care anymore. You're just
Okay.
like
Okay. Okay.
all the
Okay.
fire, all of it, all of it.
Okay, so here's the thing. My question, because let's be real, when it's ding dong done time, you know it's ding dong done time. You just don't want to acknowledge it's ding dong done time. So my question is, what the fuck are you waiting for?
Mm.
I mean, really, because it's not about how do I recognize when it's done. I mean, unless you're just absolutely trying to avoid whatever the situation is, you could probably feel it all up in your bones that it's done. So I think that for me, my approach is if somebody's hanging out in a place that's done and they know it's done, it's like, what are you waiting for? Who are you waiting for? Are you waiting for somebody to be somebody they're absolutely not going to be? Are you waiting for the situation to change? You've probably been waiting for a really long time as it is. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's missing? What's in the gap from you calling it done? So for me, it's not so much how do you identify if you're done? I want to get underneath the pretending not to know piece
Mm-hmm.
of it and go, you know it's done.
Yeah.
So what's getting in the way? I mean, and then there's the obvious things, fear, shame. We could just sit here and list 50 things. Like
Right.
that's real. And I think for me, I go, well, would I rather be in this situation that's sucking my soul dry or experience shame or experience the unknown or experience sadness and grief? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's going to be a discomfort. So, which discomfort do you want? I'd rather have the discomfort of whatever is going to arise in the transition of leaving or whatever the thing is, right? Versus sitting in this soul-sucking quicksand of a situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's coming up for me, because I can, like you said, there's all these reasons why we pretend to not be done with something and keep going and maybe try to make it work a million trillion times. And
Right.
we don't listen to our intuition and our gut feeling and the knocking on that internal soul door that's like, because we want to, afraid, we're in people pleasing mode, we're in, I don't want to have to deal with the pain of letting this go, all this stuff. And what's coming up for me is like the opportunity to tell ourselves that we are from now on like turning a corner on how quickly I can make those types of decisions in my life.
Mhm.
Because whatever has come before that you're used to in your own process can shift with your decision to try doing it a different way. Because I think it oftentimes takes one of those like it's a total mindset shift of like, oh, I'm not that person anymore.
Mhm.
And you totally have to make it like a decision point. It doesn't mean it's not going to be challenging or difficult, but when you are at the precipice of I'm either gonna fly or I'm gonna like just hurl myself, it's like for us to decide, okay, yeah, I am from now on the type of person that can process things quickly and refocus my energy on the things that matter. Because I think there's so much built in to the ways that we are, uh, is it cut off or is it that we're cut off from our ability, air quotes, to make decisions in our favor? Because this comes square into like what is the best situation for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it's such a cornerstone of like then being able to do create something else.
Yeah.
Like we have to know where that door is and be willing to shut it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's like, I think of the things when they're overdone, like they are burnt, done. The horse has been kicked. It's already passed on over the rainbow bridge. Like it's done. And to me, that lingering and that energy of doneness is just miserable
Mm-hmm.
and exhausting and sad and just like it's just I don't want to feel that way. And I think I in these past few years am making these sound decisions for myself to go, I don't want to feel that way anymore. So I get to make different decisions or else I'm going to feel that way. And so I think it's like, what is that breaking point for you when you're just like, I'm actually tired of feeling this way. And so I'm going to do something different.
Yeah. And recently you and I like dug into this and we were talking almost like all of these steps that could happen. And I think if we look at it in that way, it can help us sort of contextualize, like, so that whoever's listening and is interested, it's like, oh, I'm in this step where, first it's like you sort of get an inkling that this is kind of going to change, whatever it is. And then you might feel like you get like the cold feet, like, oh, no, wait, and you go back, and then maybe you sort of detach yourself a little bit more, but then you like bounce back, you like have this recoil reaction, because especially when it's things that have been going on for a long time, it's it's difficult, right, to be like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
And then and then what could happen is this very confusing period of that floaty in between, where
Mhm.
you're like, I know this isn't the thing anymore, but how am I sure? And maybe it is, but I need to like, maybe you try to like sew the same garment in different directions, and you're just like tearing the fabric apart, and just like, oh, well, maybe if I do this, and then it's like, no, maybe, but it's still the same material.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then there's a moment, and we both witnessed each other experiencing something like this in the like recently, where it was like, oh, I'm done. And it was like a little lightning bolt, like like snapped us on the head. And it was like, oh, that's it. And so all of those pieces of fabric where we were trying to like sew this thing in many different directions, we like took them to the trash and we lit a match and we're like, thank you for your service. Peace out. Next. And
Yeah.
then that feels like, oh, I just burned that down. Then you're like, and then it takes a beat or two to like absorb that reality.
Mhm.
And you're going to be on shaky territory because
Yeah.
you're used to this thing that you just kind of yanked out, and now you're going to, I guess, fill it with something else.
I think that's the really uncomfortable part that people don't want to feel and experience, so they don't do the thing that brings them
Yeah.
to that step,
Yeah.
right? Because they know with that change, whatever the change is, there's going to be the discomfort of, and then what?
Mhm.
Because you've had this like solid way, even though it's probably not real solid because it wouldn't be ending. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And sometimes
Yeah.
things just run their course. Sometimes it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's like it ran its course and it's time. It's time for a different way. So I think that like I think what I get to remind myself when I'm in these situations is it's not a light switch. I'm not shutting something off and turning something else on. There is a transitional period.
Hmm.
There is like this murkiness that I'm walking through because even though we make a decision, there's still this aftermath.
Hmm.
It's like the aftershock of an earthquake. Like there's these
Yeah.
like little rumblings that happen afterwards. Like the big thing happened, but there's still signs of evidence that the big thing happened. And so you're still letting go of things and processing feelings. And then something might come up to like lure you back. And then you gotta deal with that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so there's this after stuff. And I think that is what scares people because that's really the test for me is, am I going to get on the other side of this? Am I going to stick to my guns and like keep going forward? Um, and I just keep reminding myself, like, there is another side to this. It will not always look this way. This isn't a forever thing, but this is part of the process to release this stuff that is no longer working or never worked to get to the thing that I get to step into next.
Yeah.
And if I don't go through this messiness, I'm not getting over there.
Right. And many times you may not even know what that is. Like sometimes you might know, like you're transitioning from one thing to another, but most times I think when
No
it's that
idea.
sort of deep, you have no idea. Um, you said changes, and I'm thinking about this idea of the in between, which you and I talk about a lot. And so the the massive importance of the in between, which is, as you said, where a lot of us are so scared to dwell in that space because it's the emptiness of not having something that you can sort of like a hat to put on to say, oh, I do this, and so I am this. Um, so I'm gonna first give a shout out to my friend Janine,
What's up, Janine?
You know who you are. And I'm going to say this, I'm thinking of like the intimacy of the in between because it puts you face to face with yourself, like heart to heart.
Yeah.
And it's really that imagine that you're having a heart to heart conversation with yourself and you can like just the holding of that space is such an important and vital part of making changes and transitions that ultimately serve you while they are completely terrifying.
Yeah.
That intimacy is that's what I heard when you're like, we try to avoid
Hmm.
this and that. It ultimately comes down to that in between mush, gush, and
Yeah. Yeah.
woo,
And I think sometimes we surround ourselves with people or things or habits that keep us from having to be intimate with ourselves. And so
yes.
we release one of those things. It's been like a safety blanket, even though it might not be good for us. And then you got
Mhm.
to be with it. Like I mean, essentially, we can never escape ourselves as long as we're like a living thing that can feel and see and, like it can't escape it. You could try.
You just said something so interesting, and I got this visual when you said the thing about we can't escape ourselves. And it's like, well, that's kind of what we're doing. Like
Totally.
we're escaping, like we're running away. It's like the self that wants to whatever, change that, do this, all the things that we're really feeling into is literally like chasing behind us, like trying to catch us. Like, hey, and we're like, oh, whoops, zigging and zagging and just going in all directions. Um, and that visual for me is like, whoa, how many times do we just like
Yeah.
and then people will be like, but of course I want to change. Of course I want to do. I call bullshit. Call it, Sage.
Bullshit.
Call it. Because you know what? Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah. No,
No.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, we're constantly, most humans are constantly in a place of like using things to avoid, distract, like whatever's going on in here. And so, if you want to get to the other side without having those things fill whatever it is, these holes, these voids, these unhealed, blah, 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 it could be a bazillion things. Like, if you want to get to the other side of it in a healthy way where there's growth and some insight and awareness, like, can't run from yourself.
Yeah.
You can't escape yourself. Like, you actually have to be with it. And I think that's the thing is like when we leave something, when we say no to something, when we end something, I think there's this go-to of going, well, then what's next? Who's next? Oh, I'm done with this person dating app. Like it's like we just
Mm-hmm.
hop to the next
To
thing
fill in the, yeah. Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to be there with that thing. And so then it's, oh, on to the next. And that piece about making that choice to not like have no escape route, like there's no open door to escape to, like you're locking yourself in and going, I'm gonna be here with you and we're gonna work through this thing. Like that to me is the most powerful work you can do with yourself. And I
Yes.
feel like that's the place that I'm at. Like not inviting distractions, not inviting like things to avoid the feelings or whatever. And I'm just being with myself. And it has been a wild 2 years of this.
Yeah. And to your point, that takes a lot of this like really beautiful discipline
Hmm.
of choosing it and
Yeah.
noticing when you're like veer off that course and having that time and space to really be with you, which is a long, ultimate relationship that we're attending to till we're dead. And then our soul will, yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's kind of a relationship with my soul through the lens of this body I have now and these circumstances and these life things. But whatever, you believe in, it's like the soul will continue to, I guess, gather. all of this beautiful information. Um, but the idea, I remember once in, what was it, like 2019 or 2019, I was taking a bath and I was like, I was in a space where I was feeling really constricted about stuff that I wanted to do with work, but it just wasn't coming, it just wasn't working. I was trying to, um, it's almost like I was trying to make things happen that were just not ready to happen. And I felt so disappointed and so okay, what else can I do? And that reachy energy, like, oh. And I sat in this bath and I was like, all right. And I went into like a meditative space and I was like, all right, what do I need to do? And I heard, you need to take a sacred pause. And I was like, all right, so how long? As long as it takes.
You instantly want to know.
And now this version of me now is like, oh yeah, come on, I get that. But that 2020 MA version was like, I like opened one eye and I was like, wait, what?
So when do I return?
So, okay, great. Sacred pause. Like, how long is this going to be for it to be effective?
So
As
good.
long, and it was just that inner voice saying, like, as long as it takes. And then I got out of the bath, and I remember just writing in my journal, like, what does that mean? And what
Hmm.
it meant is really pausing a lot of the things that I was trying to get in motion and clearing the decks as much as possible. And not long after that, while I was still very intentional about the things that I was doing, something did come up, an idea that ended up being really remarkable that actually opened up some of the doors that I was trying to bang, but that
Hmm.
weren't opening. And by doing that, which is a total service thing, like I wasn't even charging for it while I'm trying to build my business. But then through that, things, windows and doors flung open that I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there's so many times when we are faced with that.
Hmm.
And how long are we going to bang ourselves on the head or against a wall with sort of expecting the same thing?
Yeah.
And and why do you think we do that to ourselves?
I think the fear of doing things differently is so massive that we would rather do the same thing over and over again with these unrealistic expectations than to just face the fear and do things differently.
Mm,
And I think when you can remove yourself from that chaos and you can let things fall to the side, dissolve, whatever they got to do, and you start reflecting on the patterns. Oh man, it's like a whole fresh
mm,
lens just appears when you can start identifying, oh my gosh, with that person, it looked this way. And with the next, oh my God, it looked that way too, but differently. But it was the same essential pattern. Then I think if you're still hanging in there on the whole healing journey, then you can start putting the puzzle pieces together and go, so then why do I continuously choose this same thing over and over? It's never about the pieces, the people, right? It's that, does that make sense? It's like that pattern with the
absolutely.
person. And then it's like, then the mirror reflects back to you. I probably show up in this way because, and then that's when you're looking at those wounds that you've had that you've been trying to like put band-aids on with other people or things or whatever. So I think there's, and you don't get to do all that stuff. You don't get to have the perspective. You don't get to see the patterns or the clarity or like, holy shit, this has been my life for X amount of years until you remove yourself from that situation.
Yeah, no, all that makes complete sense. I love the idea of like the identifying of the patterns because
Hmm.
it does speak to, especially when it's hard to release something, it does speak to a hole we're trying to fill
Hmm.
and probably something that comes from either childhood or something that impacted us or expectations from others. Like there's almost these like pillar things that we all connect with. And that's the
Hmm.
beauty of speaking into all of this without even having any examples, because I know if I was hearing this, I'd be like, yup, yup,
Yeah.
ding, ding. Like I could fit some of my own experiences. Um, And it, wh- what do we think? I'm now like pondering this idea of advocating for ourselves,
Hmm.
which is something that I I really believe is so necessary. Like using the word like advocating for myself because it implies decision making and doing things differently and centering yourself in your life, which is something that so many people are like, oh my God, like, oh, you do. You have to center yourself in your life. You're number one. And everybody else will benefit once you're able to get more intimate with that idea.
Hmm.
Um, so how do you think that advocating for ourselves, even in the tiny baby steps, how is that connected to giving us more courage and power to change, be done with something, say no? Like there's like a fuel in a fire or
Hmm.
a like just I'd love to hear your
It feels,
thoughts.
well, I think it feels like a claiming. Like,
Yeah.
how can you advocate for yourself if you don't say, I think I might be worth it? I
Mm,
think I matter enough that I can make different choices. So for me, there's like a claiming piece because I can say, yes, I'm going to advocate for myself. But what if you don't mean it?
right.
What if there's no like energetic attachment to that? It's just another band-aid, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like that's the change is if you're really like, I'm going to advocate for myself, I'm going to choose me, then it's like, so am I worth that? And it's like, to me, that's a whole dialogue you get to have with yourself. Like, yes, I am worth it. Yes, my life matters. Yes, I deserve to have some joy and love and peace. Yeah. But, I think however deep wounds are for people, it just might not happen. And I think if you really want to advocate for yourself, then you really get to be in that repetition of having dialogue and I matter until you can actually say I matter and mean it. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that looks a certain way because I think it's going to look different for each of us. But I think you got to keep leaning into the idea that you matter and that you're valuable and you're worthy of all the good shit.
Yeah. Boy, that's hard.
Yeah.
Like
And
when you take away, like we always like to do, dismantle the sort of like band-aid label, like it's, well, let's call it what it is. It's difficult.
mhm,
And it's like all these tiny choices with
mhm.
specific moments. You gotta almost like pause and just like go, like almost like freeze time for yourself. I think that's such a powerful thing. It's been a powerful thing for me to be faced with a choice point or something like that, let's say. And before I give a sort of automatic answer, which is like, oh, what we've been kind of trained to do over time
Right.
to make things more comfortable for people, to, not take a risk because whatever. All the ways that we acquiesce and we acquiesce and we say,
True.
sure, okay, yeah, no problem. Like think about that. That right there got me a little fiery because I know so many women out there. Like that's the tape.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, no problem. Yes, I'll be there. I'll do that, of course. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And to just be like, all right, like put a little permanent, like not permanent, little temporary sticker on your mouth.
Glue your lips
Glue
together.
your lips together. Maybe we need that for a long period of time sometimes. Like glue your lips together for a moment and just pause and like freeze time.
Yeah.
Almost like in the Matrix when
Mm.
Neo's like the bullets are coming and you're like, oh, this decision bullet is coming so fast. But no, 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 no. You're so powerful that you're gonna just freeze time. So you can just avoid the bullet completely. And then you can come back and say, well, actually, I'm going to do this. Man, that's powerful. And it's in a tiny, tiny little moment and the sort of cause and effect, right? You start making different choices. The person that is used to hearing a certain thing from you might be taken aback. And then you got to hold,
Yep.
do some like, do some breathing exercises and allow yourself to go through whatever face they make, if they roll their eyes, if they say something, if they give you a look, or because it's unexpected,
Hmm.
and then get through that. And then it does become a lot easier,
Yeah.
but you got to like do it. You have to practice it in some way.
And you have to do it again, and then you do
And
it again.
again,
And
and
then, oh, hey,
again.
you do it
Oh,
again.
hey, again. And with
Okay.
all
Oh,
these different people,
yeah.
I'm talking about all the people, because what we're doing when we have that moment of like, oh, I do love myself and care about myself enough that I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to rearrange some of the thoughts going on in my head. It's like you go out into the world then, and it's like every interaction,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, wait,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think underneath everything is a discomfort with doing things differently and changing, making different choices. And it's like, are we willing to get uncomfortable? Because people be like, yeah, but if I use my voice and I say no, then they're going to be mad or they're going to think this way about me. And so what?
yeah,
Like, and so what? Like, we get to be unattached to all these ideas and opinions that other people have about us. Or we might as well just go, okay, chain me to all that bullshit forever because it's not going to change.
it's not.
It's not going to
It's
change.
not. Oh, man. It's and the reality that nobody is going to change it for you.
Mhm.
Nobody is going to put yourself number one. Nobody is going to come along and say, actually, look at how wonderful you are. You deserve all the good things, and now I'm going to help you get them. What?
I'm laughing so heartily because I'm like,
Like what?
people don't do that.
Like what exactly is that? Um, or this makes me laugh. You're waiting for some answer from whatever your spiritual system is. And I'm just laughing because every time Sage and I, usually like in between the pods, we'll have a session, just her and I together, where we're like, all right, we got to crack something open. We got to move some energies. Like, and every time it's profound. And we will pull cards and we will do this and blah, blah. And we just keep getting these like messages where basically if you imagine like a spiritual council somewhere in a cloud or on a cosmic planet somewhere, and they're looking at us here like, all right, so we got to, and then we keep getting these messages that it's basically like, dude, really? We
Like,
already
how
went
many
through
times?
this.
How many times do we need to say this same message? How many different ways?
Right. And then they're like, okay, we'll indulge them one more time.
Yeah.
And then we're like, we crack up because we are so aware of the hilarity
Yeah.
of so many of the things that it's like you already know. And you just get to go through the process of dismantling the discomfort around it. And the
Yeah.
only way to do that is to go through it.
Hmm.
There's no way to sidestep that.
No.
So,
No.
what happens if we try to sidestep the discomfort? What do you think happens?
Oh, it's going to find us. I mean, you might get away for a hot second, but like it's coming for your ass. Like, you can't escape it. Again, another thing you can't escape. Like you just can't. And I was thinking about in the beginning when I was like, okay, I get to break down this people pleaser part of me.
Mhm.
And I was like, I got to, but I was nervous because I was like, people are going to see me differently. They're going to judge me. They're going to be like, I mean, but look, people be doing that anyway, right?
100%.
Come on.
Come
But,
on.
I had so much worry about they're not going to like me. They're going to think I'm not, a good person, whatever the 50 million stories I had in my brain. But this is what started supporting me and building confidence that I was doing the right thing for myself is I would find myself in a situation where I'm just going to pull shit out of the air. Like, say that I'm sick. I'm really sick. And this person is like blowing up my email. And I'm like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Like, and I'm still trying to find possibility for them, right? While also
Mm-hmm.
trying to advocate for myself that I am sick. And
Mm-hmm.
they'd be like, but can't you just read through this? Or
Right.
can't you just. And then I started going, like, I am sick in bed. I am absolutely done with. And this person gives zero shits about me.
Mm-hmm.
Like zero shits. They are totally fine with me putting my people pleaser pants on right now, being ill, pushing through to get what they need done. And when I started having those moments of recognizing that the people that I was going out of my way for, because I wanted them to think highly of me or like me, really didn't give a shit of my well-being, oh, it became a lot easier to start saying no and to start setting some good like ground rules for myself.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a no-brainer. Like they don't actually care about me. Why am I so worried about these people that could care less of how I'm actually feeling? They just want what they want from me.
Yeah. We really do have to get to the point where we just don't care about their own um, perception or thought about it. You
Mm-mm.
said ground rules, and I'm like, oh, there's something so empowering about establishing your ground rules. It could be one at first, and that just goes across the board. So I think it's especially as we're starting to say no. For example, ground rule, whenever I'm homesick, let's say, you work and that's a great example because I know everybody can identify with it. How many times was I sick when I worked in corporate and it was like, work all hours on vacation, stay in the office like and
Yeah.
slowly I was like, no, what like for what?
Yeah.
For what? For what? For what? Like laying a ground rule where that's just how it goes. And and you can almost give like that's the only reason that you need.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've established this ground rule for myself, and
Yeah.
that's it. Which at first will give you the heebie-jeebies, but then
Yeah. And then it just becomes your way.
yeah. How I'd love for all of us, you and I and everybody listening, to just take a mental moment to think about all the people we're currently trying to please in our lives and just bring them to mind. I think that's a valid exercise. If anybody feels called, maybe you even write a list down
Mhm.
because the awareness of it, as you and I know, is so potent. Like calling it out, like, look at this. There's you, and then
Mhm.
there's all these people, and all these people have varying degrees of need, priority. Some of them on there, you're probably like, what do you even have to do with my life that I am still working so hard to please you?
Mhm.
And some will be closer to you. And even when it comes to kids and spouses, which are two different frequencies of how we give ourselves. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the only one that I have an absolute commitment that it's like, okay, whatever you need is my son. Because I've made a commitment, a soul commitment to, allow this kid to come to this earth through me. And so I'm very clear. And even then, I'm also have boundaries with
Mhm.
him that him and I are like, playing through all the time. And I hope it makes him, a human being that also understands how to lovingly establish who you are, which he gets that better than I do. Still, I learn a lot from him.
Mhm.
But how many people are we trying to please? How much energy is it taking? The list is long. And it's like you want everybody to have a certain impression of you. And when most people don't care,
Yeah.
Really,
And I would dare to stretch you to go even
please.
further.
I thought you'd never ask.
To
How
ask
far are
yourself,
we going?
let's go. We're diving deep. Like I would invite you to ask yourself, why does pleasing these people matter so much?
Hmm.
Because if I envisioning the people that I envisioned and I say, why does it matter? It I can instantly go, because I want to be valuable. I want
Hmm.
I want to be worthy enough.
Yeah.
So then, and then here's where the work comes in, right? Because it's being reflected back to me that that's what I need to tend. And when you can tend that, whatever that thing is, it makes the ground rules so much easier. So much.
Hmm.
But if you're not willing to really look at the root of the thing that has you showing up in that way, then it's just band-aid after band-aid, year after year, people pleaser after it's just it never ends until you're willing to go, oh shit, that's the gaping wound that I get
Mm.
to sing to.
The pattern that you mentioned earlier, the over and over,
Yeah.
and the gaping wound.
Yeah.
And the only way to access that gaping wound, which we all have in some way,
Mm-hmm.
is to, again, um, dissolve all the distractions, which people pleasing is a huge distraction that keeps us from our own
Oh,
sense of intimacy because we're basically going around the world making sure that another person sees us in a certain way. That takes a lot of energy. And I also want to say, because I'm like, okay, we go around the world and literally like take stock, like, okay, you get in the car and let's say you go get a coffee. And it's like you want to, there's people pleasing also to the person like at the coffee counter, right? Like, think about it, how you react. And then I'm like, let's be very clear that kindness and love for other people is not like because I can almost see like, oh well, if I don't want to people please, then I have to be very stoic or I have to be very no. It's like
yeah.
there's such a difference between the energy of kindness and the energy of people pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
Because the people pleasing, it's always very transactional. Like you're trying to get something, evoke something out of that person. And it happens with the way we speak, the way we dress, the way we like all the things.
Yeah.
And the more we can reclaim and take that power back, the freer we are, the happier we are, the less attached we go around about the world.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh yeah, I don't have to say a
Mhm.
certain thing for you to be okay with me.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And it's like when you tend to yourself, and it's not black or white. Like I feel like there's the humans that are like, well, then I can't be kind. It's like, stop it.
Exactly. That's where
Okay.
I went there because I'm
Like,
like,
yeah,
oh,
it's like
because
it's not that. And if you're living in such a black and white world, things are going to be really challenging.
mhm.
Like, there's some you got to like be able to exist. Like,
Well, I
it,
gotta
you got to
bring
be
in all the shades in between. You
right.
gotta,
Like I can't walk you through that, okay? That's like a whole nother thing. But like it's not about that. Like feel that shit out. What feels
hmm.
good? What doesn't feel good? Start asking yourself questions. Start paying attention. I mean, that's it's doing your own work. And it's God, I just got so off track. I forgot what I was
I
gonna
know
say.
you're right on track.
Like, I was gonna share something, then it got wild. But
You were like, exactly, exactly. It was all in your head.
because it is. It's like sometimes people overcomplicate stuff. I know that's weird, but like humans tend to overcomplicate it. And
Mhm.
yeah, and I'm just gonna say, like, you cannot begin to tend the gaping wound if you're not willing to be
Mm.
with it, if you're not willing to like start doing things differently. And that wound is just going to fester and get gross. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Give us some antibiotics.
Yeah. Like, damn that
End it.
gaping wound. No wonder we're avoiding changes and being done with things. And oh, I either
I
keep
just,
doing this or I face the gaping wound. But it's
well, okay,
it's that emptiness. It's a hole.
I just stop it because I just remembered what I was going to say. And it was all about like you doing the work to make yourself feel whole.
Hmm.
So you're not going out in the world trying to have like randos fill that up for you. And
Mm.
it's like, because that's so
All those
exhausting.
randos.
That rando over there and that rando over there. It's like,
Ah.
that's the thing though. Like, how much of my life have I put myself in situations because I thought somebody else was going to tend my gaping wound. And
Mm.
I didn't know it was my responsibility to tend my gaping wound. And so I was expecting all these other randos to support me because I was being nice to them or whatever. And it doesn't work that way. And it's taken me decades to uncover this fact that it's my responsibility to tend my gaping wound. Shocked face. And so apparently it's my
Apparently.
myself whole. Apparently. And, I just didn't know that in my 20s and 30s. I just was like, oh, well, this thing, this job, this relationship, this like whatever it is going to like, just fill me up. And it just never worked.
Hmm.
Never
Yeah.
worked. Maybe there was a hot moment
Yeah.
where it felt kind
Exactly.
of good.
And yeah,
Then
not
it
really. And it's
out.
like, okay, that's
It ran its course. And then it was like, ooh, that thing's still there.
you go right back to the gaping hole, oozing pus.
Ew, right?
Ew.
Clean that
Like,
up.
ew. Just like bring some hydrogen peroxide first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Take a nap.
mm-hmm.
Like, so I think the full circle moment we're having here
Mm-hmm. As my
is
face is still all scrunched up, like, ew, all that pus.
that's so gross. I hope you're not eating lunch out there while you're listening to us. But the full circle moment is your responsibility to make yourself whole. So we're going back. I'm having this moment when we're going back to when I said, "What are you waiting for?"
Mm.
Like here we are again,
Yep.
circling back to the question of what are you waiting for? It's your job to tend yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's so much easier now to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that thing anymore
Mm-mm.
because I recognize the patterns. And honestly, I'm so tired. Like I look down the path of my old ways and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a tired, worn out path. I don't think I want that anymore.
Yeah.
No, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It yeah. And one thing oh, that pus man. One other thing I want to say, because I'm thinking about a lot of the situations that I've healed in terms of people pleasing and the gaping hole and the expecting something from somebody that I wasn't getting, is that a lot of times these these healing, I'm done with this moment, doesn't mean that that person exits your sphere of your life. Sometimes yes, but other times they're
Mhm.
in your life for whatever reason, right? Family, coworker, blah, blah, so many people that can
So many
poke
people.
those gaping wounds. Sometimes for me, it's this I'm doing the inner work and it's like this recognition of maybe an interaction is happening where usually I would get all flared up inside because I'm like, I need to like something. And then it's like, actually, no. Because part of it too is when you're like, I'm just not going to succumb to that behavior anymore. maybe it's just, well, me and other people like me that feel like we now have to kind of explain like what this new deal looks like. And you don't, because often if you do, the person is going to look at you with like, what?
Mhm.
Am I making sense?
You're making so much
There's
sense.
certain people that
Yeah.
we absolutely want to have that relationship, that
Mhm.
conversation. I've had it with my husband many times. And to me, that's, a sacred
Mhm.
unity in our communication is vital. So we've talked about that stuff. But
Mhm.
there are other people in my life that I've gotten triggered that shit out of. And I'm also people pleasing because I want them to view me a certain way. And so I'm doing all
Right.
these mental and emotional gymnastics, which are exhausting. And so every interaction is exhausting. But there have been moments when I've like, okay, I'm clearing this out. I'm going to intentionally clear it out.
Mhm.
That then I had the interaction and I'm like, oh, that didn't grip me anymore. And so the I'm done was an inner I'm done.
Mhm.
And I'm still kind and I'm cordial and I'm connected to the person. And as long as it's not someone that's like super toxic and like
Yeah, no, I
doing
know.
you emotional harm or, God forbid, physical harm, but you know what I mean? Just normal
Yeah.
stuff that it's like inside. I'm like,
Hmm.
no.
Do you feel like there's a piece there of acceptance, of accepting that's who they be?
Oh my God, yes.
There's an acceptance piece. That's who they
Yes.
be. I am never going to get from them what I want or need from them. And I understand.
Honesty, baby.
Yeah.
Honesty, intimacy, and honesty with myself. Oh, I've
Yeah.
been trying to get that out of this person.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-mm.
I get to let go of feeling resentful,
Hmm.
resentful all the time by requiring or asking for something that the person doesn't even like. It's not their responsibility, also, going back to it's my
Yeah.
responsibility to feel that.
Hmm.
Every time, man, every single time, it's like, oh, it goes back to me. Well, guess what? That's the good news. I want to see it as good news.
Well, yeah, because you can
Like,
control that.
yeah, it's like when you, because when you're saying, like, oh, well, guess what? You're responsible. I can just hear the moans and groans of, like, oh,
Ooh.
well, then, I
Sounds
have,
terrible.
no, I have all these reasons why. The whole world is against me, and I have all these things that I can't. You know what?
Stop.
Stop. Because it's good news.
It's great
It's
news.
great news.
Yeah.
It means it's up to you. And honestly, you could be in situations that you're like, what? No, like this is, but once you do that internal cleanup
Yeah.
and you see honestly what's going on, let that ish go.
And let me tell you what I'm finding is as I'm tending my wound and it's not as nearly gaping as it used to be, I'm recognizing that all the things or people I thought I needed to fill it, I don't even have that desire any longer. And there's a power, a peace that comes with knowing that it's an inward thing. Like it's my choices. And just by making different choices, I give myself what I need. And I don't even need to do the things I used to do because I am doing it differently. Like, it's wild. It's wild to be like, wow, my whole life I craved that.
Mm.
My whole life I
Yeah,
begged for that. And now I'm like, oh, hell no.
it's
Like,
wild.
I
Yeah,
am good. And like, honestly mean that.
yeah,
It's like so possible to get on the other side. Like, I feel like, yo, I'm living proof. We are
yeah,
living proof.
yes, we are. And I stand by the fact wholeheartedly, I will die by the sword that here comes the sword.
I don't know. I feel like I'm starting a
Hear me
lawnmower, but I
out.
just
This
went
is
in
a
it.
hot, it's a hot
Yeah.
take that it needs context because oh, blah, 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 blah. Here we go again. Nobody needs anybody else. Psst, sizzling hot take. Did we hear that? Replay. Take one more time. Nobody needs anybody else. Okay. Do we need community? Absolutely. Do we need each other? Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody to fill any holes within you. It's impossible.
Mm-mm.
No relationship, no object, anybody or anything. No, no thing that you're actually craving that's like outside of you will
Mm-mm.
ever really fill you in the way that you are a self-sustaining, empowered, flawed, amazing human walking around the earth, interacting with people from that space. Oh my God, just feel it. Our hands, we did the same
You said feel it. I'm like,
thing.
okay,
Just no,
okay.
feel it. Feel
Because
it.
it's so amazing and beautiful to interact with another human being when you are filled up with your own magic, with
Mm,
your own doing, and then you go and interact with them from that space.
yes.
It's such a good thing.
That's where
I'm
it's
like,
at.
shit.
That's where it's at.
Why didn't somebody mention this 10, 20 years ago? Because I
These
had to do the things I needed to do to get here, right? That's why.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring in a sprinkle of astrology. Aries and Libra are on the same axis, right?
Hmm.
Aries is me and Libra is we. They have to be in balance. And Aries, as the first sign of the zodiac, implies that there is a primordial importance to you having the me be really solid, which is like, okay, I'm feeling
Yeah.
I'm truly full. And from that point, then I interact because if the scales are tipped, which no pun intended, Libra, which they typically are, that if you put your me and your we on a scale, the we would be like completely take over.
Yeah.
And like for most of our experiences in life, that's not no. So
Yeah.
what happens? We have to like move the scale, like shift the pendulum all the way to you understanding yourself in all these new ways that will absolutely be uncomfortable for all the things we said in
Mhm.
order to to feel a sense of wholeness.
Yeah.
And then from there, we connect and we build the bridges for other people. Because if you're going to build a bridge, the foundations on both sides have to be
Hmm.
strong and sturdy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that bridge will fall.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's like clear. And you and I are such a marvelous example, as we've said, that we came into this co-creation ship, relationship, friendship with like we're both like right there in terms of understanding ourselves enough and not having these gaping holes because we've been doing for years. We've
The
been
world
trudging through the mud, doing our inner work. It gets messy and messy.
fucking
So
comfortable.
it's so comfortable, but it's all worth it.
So
And
worth
so we are still growing, we're shedding, we're like
so
just
much.
so much, so much. But it's from a space of like, there's nothing I need from you.
Right.
I benefit my
Hmm.
life greatly. My life is so enhanced because I have you in it. But I don't need you, Bish. I mean, you really enhance my life, like really, really. But it's like that's the need
Yeah.
piece is the
Yeah.
whole.
Because if you felt in any way, shape, or form that you needed me or I needed you, it then becomes a codependent relationship
Yeah.
that's toxic AF.
And the energy's all off and
Yeah.
you feel it. And so what do? Okay, we identify it's all off, but then maybe we just like tuck it in, like swallow and go, oh, okay. But when you know, you just feel that something's
Yeah.
off. The thing is that we don't give ourselves enough of a chance to sort of venture off into that unknown space of, I
Mhm.
know something's off,
Yeah.
but And over time, it's gotten easier for me to create clear boundaries and end certain relationships with like, it's happened a couple times with clients. It's happened a couple, like, sometimes with people in my life and my vicinity, it
Hmm.
doesn't look like that. But then, as again, internally, I'm like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
going to decide how to play this out and still be incredibly respectful and kind to this person, to this human. Because I
Yeah.
also operate from that standpoint that we are all just figuring ish out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think this is such a beautiful conversation. I think it's an opportunity. I feel like, okay, here we go.
here we
I
go.
I love because you started this off. You did it. You said you're like wanting to offer this permission slip.
Hmm.
And I think we did exactly that.
Hmm.
Like we're coming full circle of like, here it is. Like, here it is. Here's the honest truth. No scheming, no weird weird shaky shit. Like, this is the real honest way to make a solid change for yourself,
Yeah.
advocate for yourself. So I go back to my question, what are you waiting for?
Mm. It's go time.
Go, Tim, bro.
What are you afraid of?
Yeah, it's a real question.
What are you afraid of? And how can you get in some good trouble
Mm,
with advocating for yourself?
yeah. Look how we just spun it all right
It's
back.
just all,
Came out all organic like. Here we come. Beautiful. It's again, like I feel the joy of this whole conversation because it's it's a total doable thing because it's up to you. It's up to
yeah.
me. Like it's in my hands to
Mm-hmm.
decide who I get to be.
Mm-hmm. And there are examples, many examples. What you're looking for is like somebody that was in a really hard place and yet chose to prevail to keep themselves afloat. There are tons of examples. Find a memoir, find a book of, like, you know what I'm talking about. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, look at us. You got a widow and you got a caregiver who is swimming in the grief of that's going to happen in my life pretty soon. And we're here.
Right. We're not coming to you from our yachts off of some fancy.
Well, speak for yourself, Sage.
You're like, hold on.
Like
You know,
I
like
I
we're
just had two cheese sticks and a little
oh,
bit of dark chocolate. This isn't real as it gets. But
it's
for real,
real
yo,
deal.
we've gone through some really, if you need proof, this is the pudding. Look at us. Look at these cheeks. They're filled with pudding because
Proof
if we
pudding.
can somehow go like, hey, what's up, life? Then
Yeah.
you can too, you know?
And and it's not 24/7 like joy and elation. There's plenty of grief and depressy feelings. Like,
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, I've been in the most depressed cycle. Like one of those periods of time that you're just like, again, plummet to the depths. Like I'm laughing now and I'm still getting out of it. Like right now, because I'm with you and we got such good energy, it always lifts me up, which is
yeah.
also proof of like, get yourself somebody that can like swim next to you,
Mhm.
and then you'll be like, you know what?
Yeah.
This surge and my joy is not fake. It's very real. I'm not
Yes.
covering anything up.
Oh,
That's also, oh my God, toxic, covering up of the hole, the gaping pussy hole. I don't want to cover up the hole.
don't do that.
I don't
Because
want
the
to
pus
cover up
will
my
creep out.
hole.
Just saying. Like it's gonna creep out. It's gonna come for you.
Always. And so that was real.
Yeah.
Sage was there for me. I have another good friend that I talked about it. I was like dragging just basic necessities. Like what's absolute basic in my life? That's what was happening.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
Yeah. And I just want to presence it because sometimes I feel like people go, well, I don't feel good in my body. Me neither.
Hmm.
I'm experiencing hormonal shifts. Me too. Like, I
Yeah.
have depression. Hey, me too. Like,
I have
exactly.
anxiety. Ding. Oh my God, we should do a bingo card episode where it's like, all right, you have anxiety. Ding. You're having a big
Hey,
challenge, in your
I'll
life.
get that prize. I'm gonna get that prize.
Mm, mm, mm. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Ex
Yes, we're coming from an authentic place of the mess, of the ugly. Like, it's not glamorous, but you'll be fucking whole.
but you'll be whole.
And that's worth it to me.
You will fill the hole.
You'll fill your own hole.
Hmm. And on that very
On those wise
inspiring note,
words.
on those wise words, the mantra of the day is, gosh darn it, I matter and I will fill my hole. Me.
What she said.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Never am I mature enough for any of this, but I
Any of it,
still show
any of
up.
it.
But I still show
Yep,
up.
yep. And is there something you've been wanting to do for yourself? Good, do it.
Because, time is of the essence, friends. So
Who else is going to do it for you?
nobody.
You know what I thought last night? This is a
Tell me.
real, I'm wearing this beautiful bandana that I have. And I love every time I see someone wearing my bandana, I'm like, oh my God, I love it. And I have a few, and I wear them from time to time. But last night I found myself almost feeling like, oh, like sad that I didn't wear as many bandanas as I wanted to. And then I was like, but I can do something about that. I can literally get myself up tomorrow morning and put a fucking bandana on. And then that's
Right.
it. I'm also one of those women who wears bandana. Like, and I was like, this whole week, I told myself the entire week, I will be sporting one of my various bandanas.
I
And
love
it
that so
and it
much.
was so simple, but I was like so blown away. I was like, oh, I've
Right.
been I've been wanting to, I'd love to get connected with horses. I love horses. I'm gonna go book myself a riding thing.
Yes.
Like, oh, I want to go. I was like, okay, okay, how can I do whatever this feeling is?
Hmm.
And I'm filling my hole every time.
I love it. And I think that is just amazing that you were laying there being like, I've wanted to wear more of these. And you're like, well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna wear one
Well,
tomorrow.
it was all sad. I was like, oh, I just, they look so cute. And I was like, wait a minute.
But look, it took the energy of laying there feeling sad about it.
Hmm.
In like a quick sec, you were like, I'm gonna wear one tomorrow.
Yeah. And
It's good.
then,
It's a
yes,
different
and
choice.
it's a different, exactly. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm gonna think about all those things that I get moments of like, oh man, like, I wish I could do that. Or I wish and I'm gonna make just mental notes
Mhm.
and go like, all right, so I'm gonna do that thing in whatever form satisfies that desire. And then, because all these desires are screaming at you all the time, that you're like, then, oh, I don't do this for myself, or I don't do that, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, wait a minute, time out, time out, time out. Then this face comes out.
Our timeout face.
And, you know,
Look, can I share something quick like a ninja?
yeah, please.
Okay. So, because it totally pertains to this, oh, I wish, and then just like not doing anything about it. Last summer, I was like, oh, everybody's traveling and going on vacation. I don't get to go on a vacation this year because, like, just the way things were falling, the cards were falling. And I was just like, kind of just like bummed about it, a little depressy. And then I went, I'm gonna bring the vacation to me. And I got on the internet and I ordered like a 10 by 3 inflatable pool.
Yes.
I put it in the middle of my garden and blew that baby up.
Mm,
And let me tell you, I had my umbrella. I was drinking my coffee in my coffee cup, laying in my swimsuit in my inflatable pool. It
Yes.
was the most glorious thing. And I just was like, this is what it looks like to create possibility. Is it the
Mhm.
vacation that I was like drooling over? No, but I did something about it. Instead of sitting in my shit being like, oh, poor me, I
Mhm.
was like, next day, the box came and I was like, game on. This
Game on. Exactly.
like, let's go. And I got that baby in my garage is coming out this summer.
Oh yeah. We'll be expecting to see pictures. Maybe record a pod from there.
Like, okay. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just be in the movement now of
Hmm.
creating some joy and some like filling up your
Hmm.
bucket.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Ah, all right.
Hey, friend.
Everybody's gonna go out there and fill their holes.
That's right. Order the
Any
pool.
any parting words, Sage? Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Like, I don't know. Start collecting evidence that you matter because
Mm.
that's where it really begins. Start collecting evidence that you matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, friends, thank you for being here, for listening, for liking, for subscribing. We have a form in the comments, no, the comments, the description thing box, in case you
Yeah.
have any questions or comments, or you want us to talk about something or share something about yourself. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.